With only 4 days left of this 7-star Tera Raid event for Mighty Venusaur, I'm going to show you a simple way that worked for me to capture this Pokemon with little to no Tera Raid experience. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Liz with Ghastly Cards, and today I'm going to walk you through a very simple way that I tried and defeated the 7-star Tera Raid in Pokemon Violet for Mighty Venusaur. With just 4 days left of this Tera Raid event, I wanted to put this video out for beginners. If you've been following our live streams, I actually play through Pokemon Violet here on the channel. I've been working through it for the past several months. I feel comfortable with Tera Raids, but I don't necessarily know a ton about the stats and abilities. So if that sounds like kind of where you're at in your Pokemon Violet game and you don't want to miss out on Mighty Venusaur, here are a few things that I tried in order to eventually get Venusaur, and I promise you can do this too. Okay, before we jump in, the first two strategies that I used in order to defeat Venusaur in the 7-star Tera Raid actually come from Pokemon Cast. His videos were really helpful to just remind me of different energy types, Tera Raid types that could really assist in my first attempts for this. So the first two strategies that I used in order to do this are actually from him. If you want to learn more about why and how and get a little deeper into these first two options with Dragonite and Gyarados, head on over to his page and check that out. He explains it a lot deeper than I probably can. For my first attempt, I was going to use Dragonite from Pokemon Cast's strategy. I caught this Dragonite at a level 57 a while back, so the first thing I had to do was level him up with some experience candy and rare candies to bring him up to level 100. Now that I had Dragonite to a level 100 and gave him a couple of items for his attack and defense stats, it was time to look at his current moves and compare them to the Pokemon Cast strategy that I saw on Instagram. I'll put it right here. Steve's recommended moves were Waterfall, Dragon Cheer, Haze, and Light Screen. Luckily, I already had Waterfall on hand, so I immediately popped over to that TM in my bag and taught it to Dragonite. I think I actually replaced Outrage with Waterfall here. Again, I don't look a ton at the different moves and how they affect Tera Raids, but this time I wanted to do it a little more scientifically, even if the strategy wasn't mine. So first, I taught him Waterfall, and then I had to look for other TMs using the TM machine right next to Pokemon Center. The next in line was going to be Light Screen, but as you can see, I didn't have the required materials to build this TM, so I had to think of something else. What I did notice in his build notes were that you could swap in Safeguard, which luckily Dragonite already knew, so I didn't have to worry about that. It was already in my current moves list, so we were good to go on that front. The remaining move, however, was Haze, and luckily I did have the required materials to build this one using the TM machine next to the Pokemon Center. So I went ahead and created that TM and then immediately taught it to Dragonite. All right, now we're looking good. Aside from Dragon Rush not matching Dragon Cheer, I was pretty spot on with having all of the recommended moves and or swap-in moves. Great. Now I have Dragonite leveled up, ready to go. All I had to do was find the 7-star Tera Raid with Mighty Venusaur and test out the theory. This is way more preparation than I normally do for Tera Raids, transparently, but I had faith that maybe this would be the one. So as you can see, I did a group raid battle. There's no way I could have done this solo. But once I had my teammates in, it was time to start the battle. The Tera Raid begins and Venusaur uses the anticipated moves I'd read about in my research. Starting with Sunny Day, which decreases the base power of water-type moves by 50%. Then he uses Growth, which raises Venusaur's special attack stats. Immediately, he got the first turn-in for Petal Blizzard, which didn't affect Dragonite very much, and that was helpful. Then, just as Pokemon Cast suggested, I used Safeguard for my first move, which protected the whole team from status conditions for the first 5 turns, which basically means Toxic or Sludge Bomb isn't going to leave us all poisoned. Then I followed through with Waterfall to test how well this attack would work. Honestly, it was kind of menial at best. While Dragonite is level 100, I don't know if my attack stats were high enough to inflict as anticipated, though it was super effective to Venusaur. Finally, I used Haze, which nullified the stat changes, but again, this is not an area I'm super familiar with, and you'll see Venusaur did something similar right away after. The rest of the battle was a hazy confusion of Dragon Rush, Waterfall, and our stat attacks, but it didn't really do the trick. After another attempt with Dragonite, I decided he probably wouldn't match Steve's setup close enough to work here. So Dragonite didn't work that well, but I think that was more of a reflection on my understanding of the attack stats and not so much Pokemon Cast's recommendations. I think if you had more Tera Raid experience and kind of followed it a little bit closer, it might have worked for you. For me, it didn't really work. So another one of Pokemon Cast strategies was actually to use Gyarados. As you can see, pretty similar recommended moves and build notes, but I decided that would be my second option because I already had a Gyarados. Same thing here, I've got a level 90. I knew it might be a little bit low, but at least I had some of these recommended moves already, which would make it easier to get him on and go back into the Tera Raid for round 2. One great thing about having 2 Gyarados in the next Tera Raid was Gyarados' Intimidate, which lowered Venusaur's attack stats immediately. But other than that, it was clear that only having attack moves available without defense wasn't going to be enough for Mighty Venusaur. Sludge Bomb after Sludge Bomb, Gyarados couldn't take the heat and fainted often, which chopped the timer down to almost nothing. After a second attempt with no results, I realized it just wasn't enough. Alright, at this point, I'm saying to myself, screw the science, let's go back into our old ways and just throw our strongest Pokemon in the ring and see if there's something that we can do just with the Pokemon that we have. First up was my newly acquired Empoleon, who holds the title for hardest Tera Raid battle I've done so far. But even this Ice King couldn't tear down Mighty Venusaur. Though Ice Beam was helpful, Empoleon was demolished by Venusaur's Earth Power. Over and over and over again. That didn't work. I threw a Hail Mary with Skeledirge as a strong fire opponent, and Earth Power just absolutely crushed it and my dreams of ever getting a Mighty Venusaur. At this point, I'm out of ideas. I could keep researching. I could learn more about Tera Raids and the stats and the abilities. I could keep trying other builds and watch 10 other YouTube videos explaining exactly how the scientific way to get through this Tera Raid would be. But with 4 days left, I didn't really want to waste a ton of time. I wanted to make sure I got this Mighty Venusaur, and I'm sure if you're a beginner, you can relate. You don't want to miss out on these Tera Raid events. But then, I remembered my tried and true mythical dark Pokemon Darkrai. My last random shot of the night at getting Venusaur rested in the hands of Darkrai and 3 Chestnuts. But then the most unexpected thing happened. Every time Venusaur would use Earth Power on Darkrai, he would avoid the attack, and that gave me the window to use Dark Pulse. For the first time in over 5 Tera Raids of attempts, I was able to charge up my full Tera Orb in order to use it and terrestrialize against Venusaur. Now, I did end up fainting a couple of times, but not nearly as much as I was before, which allowed me to keep the timer from totally chopping down before we were able to even get Venusaur out of his terrestrialized form. But my friends, we did do it. He succumbed to the onslaught and we were able to get this Venusaur defeated. If you like some of these beginner tutorials in Pokemon Violet, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. It super helps me out. I really enjoyed working my way through this Tera Raid, and I hope you find it informative enough to go out and try on your own. And if you do, please leave a comment down below and let me know what worked for you. Maybe we can spread more information for the newbies out there. We don't know. But thank you for stopping by. I hope you guys all get the Venusaurs that you want. And then I'm also going to try to do something similar for Blastoise and Charizard. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, stick around, and let's get through this together.